When a president stands before Congress declaring victory while his approval rating sits at 36%, you are watching the disconnect between political theater and public reality. When he celebrates a roaring economy while 64% of Americans disapprove of his economic handling, you are witnessing the gap between campaign narrative and daily struggle. My name is Eleanor Grant, and I am a journalist. This is just my point of view that I am presenting. It may be wrong, but it is my own perspective. I want you to share your point of view in the comments as well. On Tuesday night, February 24th, Donald Trump delivered his State of the Union address before a joint session of Congress. The speech lasted 1 hour and 48 minutes, making it the longest State of the Union in modern history. He proclaimed that America has entered a golden age. He touted economic turnarounds, border security, and declining inflation. He greeted Supreme Court justices. He reunited a Venezuelan political prisoner with his niece. He honored the Olympic gold medal-winning men's hockey team. But underneath the pageantry lies a more complicated political reality. The speech occurred at a moment when Trump's approval ratings have fallen to the lowest point of his second term. Multiple polls conducted immediately before the address showed approval ranging from 36 to 39%, with disapproval consistently above 60%. These numbers matter because midterm elections approach in November, and the president's party holds only slim majorities in both chambers of Congress. The most traumatic moment came when Trump addressed the Supreme Court's recent decision striking down his global tariffs. Just 4 days earlier, on Friday, February 21st, the court ruled 6-3 that Trump exceeded his authority by imposing sweeping emergency tariffs under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. The majority opinion, written by Chief Justice John Roberts, determined that the law enacted in the 1970s cannot be used to impose tariffs on a whim. 3 justices who voted against Trump's tariffs sat directly in front of him during the speech. Amy Coney Barrett, whom Trump appointed to the court, was among them. Justice Brett Kavanaugh, another Trump appointee, dissented and supported the tariffs. Trump called the ruling unfortunate and disappointing. He repeated those words multiple times, but his tone remained notably more restrained than his immediate reaction on Friday, when he declared himself absolutely ashamed of the 6 justices and suggested without evidence that foreign influence may have affected their decision. On Tuesday, he shook hands with each justice before the speech. He acknowledged the ruling, then moved forward, claiming that countries and corporations want to keep the deals they already made because his legal authority to impose new tariffs could result in far worse terms for them. Almost immediately after the court's decision, Trump replaced the struck-down tariffs with a 10% global tariff under Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974. That tariff took effect on Tuesday. Trump stated during the speech that these tariffs will remain in place under fully approved and tested alternative legal statutes. He promised congressional action would not be necessary. The reality is more complex. India paused plans to finalize an interim trade deal just days before a scheduled Washington visit. The European Parliament postponed a vote for the second time on their trade agreement. European officials stated that the United States breached terms of the deal and prepared to retaliate if necessary. The president spent significant time celebrating economic achievements. He claimed inflation is plummeting, prices are falling, and the economy is roaring like never before. He pointed to stock market highs and strong job numbers. He announced a new public retirement plan offering government matching contributions up to $1,000 annually. He touted his tax legislation, including elimination of taxes on tips and overtime, and the creation of Trump accounts for newborns that could grow to $100,000 by age 18 with modest contributions. The economic claims require context. Inflation has declined during Trump's second term, but plummeting overstates the reality. Year-over-year inflation in January 2026 was approximately 2.4%. That represents improvement from the 2.9% rate when he took office in January 2025. But the decline began years earlier under President Biden, falling from a peak of 9% in summer 2022. Some prices have decreased. Gasoline dropped 6%. Egg prices fell dramatically, down roughly 48% from their peak. But many essential costs continue rising. Beef prices hit all-time highs. Ground beef reached $6.75 per pound. Groceries increased 2% overall. Electricity rose 6.3%. Housing costs climbed 3.4%. Medical care increased 3.2%. Public perception tells a different story than Trump's triumphant narrative. An ABC News Washington Post Ipsos poll found that 64% of Americans disapprove of Trump's handling of tariffs, while only 34% approve. A CNN poll showed 63% disapprove of his overall job performance, with 47% strongly disapproving. Only 32% believe Trump has the right priorities. 61% say his policies will move the country in the wrong direction. These numbers represent the most negative readings of Trump's second term and some of the worst of his entire political career. The approval collapse extends beyond overall job performance. Americans have lost confidence in Trump on the economy for the first time in his political career. Multiple polls show economic approval in the mid to high 30s. His approval among independent voters has imploded. A YouGov Economist poll found only 25% of independents approve, while 66% disapprove. That represents a 37-point erosion in net approval since he took office 13 months ago. Independents often decide national elections. Their departure creates serious problems for Republicans defending slim congressional majorities. Trump devoted substantial attention to immigration, his signature issue since announcing his presidential campaign in 2016. He claimed the border is now the most secure in American history. He touted declining border encounters from over 61,000 in January 2025 to under 10,000 in January 2026. He celebrated his administration's deportation efforts and condemned Democrats who refused to stand when he discussed removing criminal aliens. The chamber erupted in shouting. Democrats yelled that Trump's agents have killed Americans, referencing the shooting deaths of 2 citizens in Minneapolis by federal immigration officers in January. Public opinion on immigration shows complexity. Polling indicates majority support for securing the border and conducting deportations. But 60% disapprove of Trump's handling of immigration overall. Americans express concerns about immigration and customs enforcement entering homes without court orders, arresting immigrants with no criminal records, using mass detention centers, and conducting deportations without due process. The gap between supporting the concept of border security and approving Trump's specific methods creates political vulnerability. Trump made claims throughout the speech that fact-checkers disputed. He stated he added 70,000 construction jobs. Bureau of Labor Statistics data shows 44,000 jobs added. He claimed to have lifted 2.4 million Americans off food stamps as a record. While the number is accurate, context matters. Nearly 42 million Americans still rely on the program. He asserted that millions of migrants came from prisons and mental institutions. No evidence supports that claim. He declared the murder rate saw its single largest decline in recorded history. Preliminary data suggests homicides may have reached a 125-year low, but official FBI statistics for 2025 have not been released yet. The speech reflected Trump's standard approach, heavy on showmanship and self-congratulation, light on acknowledging economic struggles that polling shows Americans prioritize above all other issues. He blamed Democrats and the previous administration for high prices, while claiming his policies are rapidly ending them. He ignored his falling approval ratings and gave no indication he would adjust domestic or foreign policies in response to public sentiment. He taunted Democrats repeatedly. He celebrated his existing agenda rather than proposing significant new legislative initiatives. The political stakes are clear. Midterm elections occur in 9 months. The president's party typically loses congressional seats in midterms. Trump's approval numbers place Republicans in a precarious position. The generic congressional ballot shows Democrats with advantages in many polls. Voters consistently say the economy and cost of living are their top concerns by wide margins over any other issue. If Trump cannot convince Americans he is addressing affordability and that his policies are working, Republicans face potential losses in both chambers. The Supreme Court confrontation adds another dimension. Trump now has multiple major cases before the court this term. His moderated tone on Tuesday night likely reflects awareness that he needs the court's cooperation on other issues. But his willingness to publicly attack justices, suggest foreign influence, and call them a disgrace reveals his view that institutional norms should not constrain presidential power when they produce outcomes he dislikes. The court established that emergency powers have limits. Trump responded by finding alternative authorities and promising to continue regardless. Remember this about democratic accountability. When leaders celebrate victories that citizens do not feel in their daily lives, the gap between governing rhetoric and lived reality becomes a political liability that no amount of showmanship can permanently bridge.